Hi guys, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be discussing the history of T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, the void outside of time, space and reality. A pretty important place in TCC, so let's just get into it with the drawing basically summing up most of the history. But before we get into the history of T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, we need to look at the events before, with the separation, an event caused by Eternal Infinity, the fourth golden one, where they used the verse globes in order to basically trap all of reality in different verse globes, and then basically there's nothing other than the area where they're at, and basically their plan is basically just to watch it all fall while researching. However, before reality fell, hang on, is my camera moving? Okay, I don't think it is. Before reality fell, obviously everyone wasn't happy about this. Specifically Iravoid, who did fight Eternal Infinity but unfortunately lost, leading to everyone being sealed. And while there was a few survivors, they didn't survive for that long. They were all spread across all the verse globes, which would eventually to create the creation of the second verse, which is the main one for TCC when I'm talking about it. And one of the first things that appeared in there was T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, which, to describe it, is basically like an empty white void, pretty much. There's some things in it. I haven't fully decided what, but it's mainly just an empty void. But yeah. But in this void, appeared a bunch of um, creatures who, when they were erased from reality and put into the verse globes, they didn't quite get through enough. So that led to them appearing in the void outside of time, space, and reality, which is a place you can only really get to by being erased from reality, or some other ways which I'll get into later. But the main ones that you need to know about, in terms of the characters, are Zeros, Sailor, Kragos, Iravoid, and Ekron. And these are the ones before all. There was other ones before all. However, due to the void, it led to them kind of being corrupted in a way, which, if I can find an image of one, led to oh, okay, you can't really see it from that one. I'll find a better drawing. But basically, it led to them being all glitchy and stuff. Let me just quickly try and find one. Right. Okay, it might be a bit hard to see from this. But this is a one drawing I did of the void, but this one were a bit too big to get out. And these things right here, they're the lost from before. So yeah. But basically, mainly these five work together to kind of make the void like actually inhabitable and set up a void government. So they did that while defending from the lost from before, and eventually Zeros was starting to get quite power hungry, and Iravoid were like, "Don't do that, please." But other events would be happening during this time. Firstly, the original Betrayer incident, which I previously mentioned, was about to happen. However, there was one other event that happened. Okay, you can't really see the bottom, but there's Eternal Infinity there, which is the appearance of the sixth Golden One, Chaos Incarnate, who appeared sometime after all that. However, they didn't appear originally in the second verse. They appeared in a different one after the fifth Golden One was killed during the separation by Eternal Infinity. And basically what happened is she immediately spawned in, and Eternal Infinity just attempted to just spawn kill her, basically. So that led to an entire battle, leading to the use of the Forbidden Rune, which we'll get into later. But basically, that entire verse got blown up, and Eternal Infinity retreated, leading to Chaos Incarnate escaping to the second verse, and doing some other stuff, which we'll get into later. That's going to be the tagline. We'll get into later. But as previously mentioned with the Betrayer incident, obviously the Betrayer incident would lead to the Siege on the Void, which was predecessed. I don't know if that's a word. Who cares? By the discussion between the Void Council, where Zeros, Iravoid were basically saying this is a terrible idea. We shouldn't bring Reality Zero in here, because if we do that, it'll just destabilize reality, and there'll be a giant chaos ball in our back garden. And Zeros is like, "Don't talk to me like that." And then stabs Iravoid. Luckily, Iravoid survives, grabs a scythe and teleports away, has a monologue, and then is like, "I'm gonna do this my own way." Which led to there being only 4 of them to defend against Reality Zero. So this is from the battle of the from the Siege of the Void. We've got an Ultimate Chaos Dragon here, and we got Kara from Reality Zero there. They will get into later. That is literally just going to be the tagline. Then we got Kragos and Sailor. Obviously, Zeros and Necron are somewhere around here. But yeah, as well as those chaos creatures, there are other ones like we've got the Chaos Titan, and I did draw some other ones. Let me just find them. That's also going to be another tagline, I feel like. Where is it? Probably under Chaos. They're normally under Chaos. Might be in this one. Okay, I have no idea where they are. Oh well. But yeah, obviously during the Siege of the Void, they all battle Kara. Kragos gets killed. There's kind of a stalemate, and Reality Zero is kind of just left to be there, like plotting, I guess. So that definitely won't lead to anything good. Such as so many teraflux, or as I made the plural, terafly, because funny. And obviously this would lead to the first teraflux, Dark-Star, better drone of Dark-Star with Terra Swarm there. But obviously Infinity would use a a technique they discover in the void called the hollow form, which basically allows you to leave behind your body just chilling while you go into actual reality, but you're significantly weaker. Um, and yeah. So yeah. Kira now in the form of Infinity uses that to, after making the cavern and all that, they're like, nice, I've built up my cavern Lego set. Time to make an army. For reasons. So basically, all the terafluxes are basically how the Terrafly are made is Kira just like goes into a reality, sort of, since Chaos God of Fate and all that, influences them kind of subtly to lead them to trying to do the a betrayer incident. If that don't work, they just grab them, drop them into a cavern, and let them fall for eternity until they turn into a Terrafly. Which it literally is an eternity, but only for them. So yeah, then during all this, there's also Iravoid, who is plotting and trying to figure out how to actually get out of the void. So technically, this isn't accurate to this moment, but eventually they create the Iravoid. That's fun to say. But yeah, then let's go back to this one. With some other events that are happening in the void at the time, because they also discover hollow forms, and also that beings can come into the void by being erased from reality. They're still not entirely sure how to properly get out, but we'll get into that later. However, at the same time, Zeros is going insane. Partly due to all the stuff that happened there, and also partly due to insanity from Quest for the Golden Magikarp, because he's here too. Yeah, and eventually turns into what I've dubbed Insanity Zeros, which is this one here, behind Xehanort there. So yeah, there's a whole battle between those, and I think Divinity pops in. Divinity showed up in some of the recent videos, but just as a voice. Actually, I think I don't know, but yeah. Eventually, this leads to a whole battle, between in there's Infinity, there's Insanity, there's Divinity, there's all the T's, and eventually, Xehanort does a crazy spell thing and basically completely alters the timeline of the void, because while the timeline of the void before, it was kind of slightly linked to what it was in regular reality, this kind of put it across like several different points, so that leads to a lot of stuff, including time travel at some point. But yeah, that happens. But meanwhile, Iravoid discovers a way out, also known as the errors in reality. Iravoid, error in reality. I'm gonna keep saying that, it's fun. But basically, Iravoid discovers a crack in reality leading into regular reality. However, that also leads to them becoming all glitchy, and eventually leads to them showing up in the main events of TCC, which we'll get into in a sec. Cause during all this, actually no, it does basically skips the events of TCC. Pretty much. So Iravoid is doing their own thing in TCC currently. However, due to the time skip, there's beings coming from all kinds of reality into T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, which eventually leads to Dion Nemesis, who gets erased from reality by Terraswarm, who teams up with the last Dark Star, the last Terraflux, Dark.Star, and this is like 100,000 years or so after the events of like TCC, and they blow up the equivalent of Earth, I guess. In this case, it's Zephox. And then Terraswarm gets arrested for blowing up a planet. Dark.Star kind of just does whatever they want, but they do eventually get stopped by a different group. But obviously, after getting erased from reality, Terraswarm, not Terraswarm, that's Terraswarm. Nemesis basically joins the what I haven't really decided too much of it, but Nemesis basically joins the Void government group thing, holoforms, yeah, and does a bunch of exploring, discovers that Terraswarm erased them, do a bunch of other adventures while the events of TCC are happening. Time pirates, that happens. Then eventually, the stuff that Iravoid did is coming to attack the Void government, which leads to T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, who I definitely have a drawing of, and I definitely know where it is. And I actually mean that this time. Boom, T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R. T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R is great. Basically just a glitchy robot meant to sabotage the Void government, which leads to events that lead to the collapse of the Void government. So yeah, that happens. So meanwhile, Nemesis is like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And Terraflux Infinite is like, "Yo, it's me." A bunch of guys in regular reality broke into the cavern, and now I stole Keira, but unfortunately she broke out with the power of friendship, and now she's overpowered. So now I'm sending in the nuke, because basically what Infinity's plan was technically not entirely for super evil reasons, but still destroying reality in a way. Because basically what the plan was, because basically what the cavern is it basically, and I can't mention the cavern because it's literally inside T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R, but basically, it has connections to a ton of different realities / universes. That's just what I use for universes, realities. It has connection to all those, and basically, the idea is a reality bomb that destroys all of reality using the power of every single black hole in the verse to destroy the verse globe, and break them all out so there can a billion v1 eternal infinity, which does happen at some point, but not this time, because while Nemesis is trying to stop eternal infinity, I don't actually know whether they die or not. They might not. We've got Keira absolutely jumping infinity, because they have like a full-on epic battle throughout Reality 6, and then Infinity's like, "Oh, this is only my hollow form. You're gonna have to catch me," and then disappears back to the cavern to destroy all of reality with the giant ball of black holes. And the cabin's kind of falling apart at this point, but then Kira's like, you do realize I'm OP, and then just teleports into the cabin, dives down the like literally it's the size of a universe. Dive down and then just slap the ball of black holes out of Infinity's hands into the verse globe, leading to this crack right here in the verse globe, which is very important because after they finish having their battle, and Infinity decides I'm gonna be Kira again. However, they're not fully Kira because they were never Kira in the first place. But we'll get into that later. So yeah, then however, during that battle, a shard from the verse globe hit Infinity and actually did a bit of damage. But most importantly, there's a shard of the verse globe which definitely will not lead to anything bad. Or good. Or, I don't know. But yeah, so then after all that, the cabin collapses. Oh wait, I completely forgot. There were also the sorry if I sound far away, I'm getting something. During the events of TCC, the Starlight infection, well, the Starlight Hive also ended up there and were defeated and kind of just left. However, it somehow returns. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, Kira eventually is like, well, I won, and is like, time to get my overpowered form, Nyria. So yeah, after that, quite a bit happens. There's TCC The Next Generation, where a character from there called Blip eventually falls into the into Reality Zero. This is a new form, Wisp. So yeah, but at the same time, while everyone's trying to, well, forget about, they're definitely not trying to help. They're dead. They're also dead. So mainly Sacred Lenore and Kragos are trying to fix up the void because it kind of got destroyed. And Terra Swarm is also there somewhere, probably broke out at some point because they got, arrested for destroying a planet. But yeah, Iravoid's also there, plotting and planning on getting a super epic new form. However, some other stuff happens, which leads to Wisp popping back into the main universe. Well, actually, no, I don't know if. One sec, let me find the page. This isn't really a drawing. This is mainly just checking something. Where is it? Yes. So before all the Iravoid stuff, basically, it's kind of revealed that one sec. Where's Chaos Incarnate? Oh yes. Chaos Incarnate. It's revealed that when Chaos Incarnate originally used the Forbidden Rune, which is a type of Faenite magic, she ended up becoming a Faenite, which I can best describe as overpowered fairies. Well, overpowered magic fairies, but yeah. So that's Chaos Incarnate. Actually, cause she just disguised herself as Kara, and then we're like, time to betray her incident. Let's go. So she does an entire thing, uh, basically causing the chaos apocalypse. But eventually that's stopped by. There's so many more drawings I should have grabbed. But eventually that is stopped by Flicker, the best, who's not just Twilight Sparkle. But yeah, then, after, well, Chaos Incarnate don't really retreat, but also during TCC Next Generation, oh, I need another drawing. Where is that one I need? Terra Swarm also pops back and escapes the main reality and goes to the Twilight Abyss, which I mentioned before, which were created from the remaining magic of the original place where Reality Zero was, and eventually uses that to get their brand new Chaos form, known as Terravoid. Eventually they're defeated when Neria pops up and she's like, no, don't do that, sword. However, Terra Swarm also gets access to the Shard of the Verse Globe from this, which this is kind of where we get into uncertain territory, because obviously this is a very much work in progress thing. But after everyone's like, yay, we're fixing up the void, we're Bob the Builder and all that, Iravoid eventually gets the Verse Shard, and causes an error apocalypse, I guess, and uses the Verse Shard to break open the crack in the void, the Verse Globe, a bit, and they are 1v1 Eternal Infinity, and it's epic. However, unfortunately, they do lose and they do die. R.I.P. Iravoid. You're one of the best characters. You're like top 4. Where's the drawing of Iravoid battling? Yeah. This, but more glitchy, and where is hang on, where's the other book? Ah, yes. Iravoid Chaos Form. There's a ton of forms for Iravoid, but unfortunately, Iravoid dies. R.I.P. Iravoid, you will be remembered. So yeah, but then everyone eventually, Chaos Incarnate's like, so, I know we don't get along, but I think I found a way to break out reality. Reference. Alright, but yeah, so Chaos Incarnate, Neria, everyone, they all team up to try and get out, and they do eventually get out, but they end up getting caught by Eternal Infinity. Where's Eternal Infinity? I guess Eternal Infinity's there. Which leads to them being trapped back in reality. However, then they do the greatest thing ever. They do basically a friendship nuke, I guess. They all team up and send a giant explosion throughout all of reality, and it goes across like all time and space, so it technically doesn't explode until the end of the verse. But basically what that does is it just destroys the verse globe, sending everyone into the library, which is where Eternal Infinity is. Which also, and also, since it was so powerful, because they also used the power of every single black hole and all that, probably, I don't know. They also end up beams going everywhere, destroying all the verse globes. So as everyone's fighting Eternal Infinity, every, like, stars and universes and stuff are popping all around. It's epic. I can imagine it in my head. It's amazing. But they're all fighting Eternal Infinity. It's literally an every 1v1 on Eternal Infinity. It's absolutely crazy. But Eternal Infinity is like, if I can't have reality, you can't. And then summons every single black hole from every single verse and makes a mega nuke. And then Chaos Incarnate just, well, obviously Eternal Infinity dies from that because they did like slash TP all, and then died of entity cramming. But yeah, then Chaos Incarnate just grabs that, gets a cool new epic form called the next existence, and just stops that, and then reality's anew, everyone's good, everything's fine, we don't have to worry about the ominous physical embodiment or nothing that's watching over us right now. We're all good, let's go! So yeah, that is the current history of T.V.O.O.T.S.A.R. And technically the Coalescence. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and remember, chaos